Welcome back. So Basic Education Minister Siviwe has come under fire on social media after foldable desks that disadvantaged students must carry to school daily, right? The project, which is aimed at addressing infrastructure challenges, will be rolled out in rural areas in the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape. But let's get reaction. We are joined by education activist, Mr. Hendrick Makaneta, in studio. There's, in fact, quite a few of these. There we go. I was going to bring up those ones as well, where, so you've seen those pictures going out on social media, those green desks, and then these red ones, branded McDonald. And then, of course, they fold up. There you go. They fold up, and then the learners, I suppose, put all their belongings in there and then pull these desks from home to school and vice versa every single day. There's a sense that they also have some sort of energy-saving connectivity to them as well. Is this a step in the right direction? Mr. Makaneta, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
As an education activist, you see these images. We know the infrastructure shortages and certainly equipment shortages that many of our vulnerable schools do have. Was this the right approach?
Well, I think that given the nature of our schools, the fact that we still have learners who study without a desk, and the fact that this was a donation, because from what I read, the minister did not pay anything, and then the McDonald's decided to donate. So usually a donation, if it's going to address a need, should be welcome in my view. But of course, I've also read the, various on social media, many people not happy with the desks. But I think that the intention of the minister, in my view, was pure to say that let me try and address the need using the donation that has been given by McDonald's.
Yeah, but look at these. We don't know the weight, right? We haven't felt these things, but well, some of the criticism on social media certainly has been, is it fair to ask children to drag their desks to and from school every single day? I mean, that's a big thing to put on a child, some would argue, and I think I would argue the same thing, no?
Yeah, I read all of those comments, and my first reaction was that, if I was there in Cape Town, I would have, gone to the school to try and see for myself, try to carry that particular bag to see how heavy it is. And I think that, like I said, it appears that the minister is just trying to address the need, which is there in the schooling environment. But of course, it had unintended consequences because of the backlash that has come from communities. But I think others are also arguing that, the branding McDonald's is visible there when learners are walking in the streets of their township. And of course, that is something else. But, if you look at the nature and character of donations, I remember I used to work for a company in Johannesburg where it was a non-governmental organization, Saibono Discovery Center. We once received a car which was donated by the Sasria company. And so Sasria also wanted their brand, to be on that baggie, to be reflected there. So I think many donors actually prefer that once they donate something, their brand should be there. I can't just give you money and my name is not there. They want to be seen that, yes, these people have done something in terms of corporate social investment. I think that could be the idea. But of course, criticisms are well and good. But as a country, I think that we must try and move towards, constructive criticism to a point where if we criticize something, we must also try and come up with, different approaches to say what else can be done rather than just to be on the chair and just to criticize.
No, but the ethical question is important. I mean, you make the example of a sponsorship that takes place, and there is that sort of exchange of the, return on investment of that donation. And here we're talking about children.
Yes.
This is not an institution. We're talking about children that are walking around with a brand on their back, and we don't know just how comfortable that is as well, but that is where they're going to study. I mean, is there a question of ethics here?
Definitely. Look, you know, as I indicated in the beginning, if you get a donation, the key question is, do you accept it or do you reject it? And you know, that is one question. And based on the need, you know, I think that the minister was just trying to say, look, let's accept it as it is. And obviously it had these unintended consequences of being rejected by society. But what I can also say is that what I see happening a lot is that people who are criticized the most are those who are actually trying to do something. People who just fold their arms and are not doing anything, usually they are not criticized. And I think that we must try and also just to applaud, to say the partnership that the minister is trying to create with the private sector, because I saw it's not only this one. I saw there's also something called a traveling bus in the Western Cape. I saw it was launched about 3 weeks ago in Paarl. The Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Steenhuisen, attended that launch. That bus has got all the necessary facilities, the equipments that learners need, especially learners who come from disadvantaged communities. It travels all around to ensure that whenever they do projects or be it, you know, a lab, you know, they have that lab inside and learners can be able to actually work, unlike doing things theoretically. So I think that we must encourage the minister to carry on with partnering with the private sector, because that's exactly what we need. Remember, the austerity measures as well have caused a lot of problems. Budget cuts. Recently, the minister tried to increase VAT by 2%. He too was criticized to say, go and look, check the money somewhere. So if there's going to be partnership or ministers who take action to partner with private companies, I think that is something that which we should appreciate.
Mr. Makaneta, criticism is important, I argue, particularly when we're talking about decisions that are made that impact the daily lives and the futures and the functionality of the daily lives and education of our children. And so the criticism is going to be there and we need to address it. There is the question about sustainability here. Why not have a donation that is sitting infrastructure for the school that is going to be there 5 years, 10 years from now? How sustainable is this very project that we're looking at?
Definitely. I think that now that, you know, there's this backlash as well, perhaps the advice could be, you know, I think even the McDonald's probably, wherever they are, they're also watching. They could also look at a different way of, you know, donating, to say that if this does not work, I'm yet to see it physically, to check for myself, is this heavy for the learner? Obviously, as an activist, I would also not want a situation whereby a grade 1 learner is going to carry this an additional burden on their shoulders. And of course, you are quite right. If infrastructure can be provided in such a way that it remains in the classroom for many years to come, I think that is something that we can accept. We know in Gauteng already, you know, if you listen to the State of the Province address yesterday, the MEC there has provided, you know, a plan to build 18 more schools. I think that the minister should also look into that, because every year we sit with a problem of unplaced learners. I'm sure you know, particularly in Western Cape and Gauteng, because there's a growing number of people who come into Gauteng. I mean, Gauteng, it's a preferred destination for many people who want jobs and so on and so forth. So yes, I fully agree that, you know, in terms of development of our infrastructure, we need to look at sustainable ways of doing it and partnering. I think that the first step is that where we can applaud the minister to say, yes, you have partnered with the private sector. That's what we want. Because government alone will not be able to resolve all of these issues that we are facing. You know, in Western Cape, the issues of teacher shortages, which came also as a result of the austerity measures, is a cause for great concern. And would love a situation whereby if companies such as McDonald's are going to lend a hand of support, let them also go to that extent of ensuring that somehow we're able to ensure teachers are also employed in their numbers.
Because I think it's important to remember that in some of our communities, we're not talking about children whose parents easily have cars that they're able to hop into. In some cases, small children that we know from a statistical point of view, in some cases, are even stunted.
Definitely.
And making their way
they have to
arduous
walk.
journeys
Definitely.
to get to school. And so there is the issue around whether or not we might and should look into if there is a child's rights matter here that should be looked at.
We should. We should, of course, look at that. And, of course, you know, the issue of transport, very critical. The Eastern Cape still has a big challenge. I mean, some of the schools are being closed, especially those that cannot meet the threshold, you know, in terms of what government needs. You find that poor learners who reside in that community have to walk a distance, you know, a few kilometers into the next village. So that as well must be looked at because, of course, it talks to the issue of human rights as well. You know, along the way, learners, anything can happen to them, especially where there is no transport. You know, education should be a right and not necessarily a privilege. But we must applaud government for taking steps to make sure that especially quintile 1 and 2, as well as quintile 3 schools, you know, those are the no-fee paying schools. Learners are able to learn. But partnering with those who can afford to help certainly can go a long way. The minister, I'm sure she has heard this, and I hope that as she partners with those who are willing to assist, they can look at all of those critical areas to address, you know, all of these challenges.
Yeah, it's important. Thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate you coming into the studio there to analyze this for us. Mr. Hendrick Makaneta there, an education activist, speaking to us about the foldable desk donations that have drawn some controversy from a few South Africans. You can share your thoughts with us as well on X at Newzroom 405. We're going to take a short break. We do have other news on the other side of it.